Well, I think that's good enough for Lotus. Moving on to the next one is Toro Rosso, who finished ahead of Lotus last year. They have the young, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the youngest driver lineup in F1 history.
Yeah.
With an
Yeah,
average
that's right.
average age of like 19 or something, because I think Sainz is 20 or 21 and Verstappen's 17, so
Yeah.
their average age is below 20 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and well, Verstappen had Verstappen. I gotta really get the H in there. Verstappen. Verstappen. He did have some experience in the 2014 car. He did a couple of tests, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, a couple of
To get
FP1s.
his super license.
Right, that's right, that's right. Sainz though, I don't think he's done any testing up until this year at Jerez.
Yeah, because he was the one slated to get the seat before anyone even knew about Verstappen.
Hmm.
He was the one slated to get the seat. He was basically next in line for a Toro Rosso seat, wasn't he? Everyone thought he was going to get it. I think there's another guy that's there somewhere as well that's kind of next in line now. But yeah, like you said, it's weird though because he hasn't really had that much testing, and Verstappen's had more. Like you said, to get the super license. So the way it's worked out in Verstappen's favour. But also, again, like I mentioned earlier, with Verstappen, he's gone into Formula Renault 3.5 and not dominated it, but his first year. This is going to be his second year in car racing. He's karting for that. So karting 1 year in Formula Renault 3.5 and then straight to F1. I mean, to be that competitive as soon as you jump in a car is amazing, especially when he was only 16 when he was doing that. So I'm expecting big things from Verstappen. Definitely, I'm expecting him to be one of the talents of the grid, right up there. And obviously not straight away, but give him 2 or 3 seasons, and I'm expecting him to be right up there with Hamilton Alonso. It's a big boost to fill, isn't it? But I'm expecting him to be right up there because of what he's done. It's absolutely amazing to
sort of like
to go through so quickly.
Like Button Weber level, something like that.
No, but I think higher than that. I do want to say Hamilton Alonso, but that's just such a big boost to fill.
Yeah.
That's a big statement to say he's going to be the next Hamilton. I mean, that's a huge thing to say. So I'm just trying to avoid saying that really, but but I do genuinely think he's going to be really, really impressive. So I'm really looking forward to see what he does. And I've not really heard much about Carlos Sainz. He does look good as well from what I've kind of heard, but I've not heard too much about him, to be honest.
Looks like he did Formula BMW, Formula 3, GP3, Formula Renault 3.5, and then into Formula 1. But I mean, I'm reading his wiki. Same thing. I really don't know much about Sainz. I do believe he won. He won the 3.5 championship. I think I remember when that happened. And I mean, those cars aren't too far off of older F1 cars. They're pretty different compared to the ones now. But it's
3.5 is pretty close to GP2.
GP2.
But I have to correct you, Alex. Verstappen didn't race in 3.5. He raced in Formula 3, which is much lower than 3.5.
Yeah, I know it was quite low. That's why I was surprised we said it was GP2. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, so if Formula 3 is even lower than GP3.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, which makes sense for his first. This is first, like I say, first season car race, and that makes sense. But I think it should be noted as well that it happened because Mercedes wanted him. Mercedes was stalking him and in talks with him. So Red Bull didn't really have a choice. Mercedes were probably saying, "Look, we'll put you in, perhaps in GP2 or maybe even in a lower F1 car. I don't really know the details, obviously, but." But basically Mercedes was stalking him, and Red Bull went, well, this guy has got serious talent. We'd rather have him move up the ranks a bit slower, but we can't lose him because he looks absolutely amazing. So we're gonna have to put him straight to F1, which is why he jumped the queue. Obviously his talent, but that's definitely motivated just to stop Mercedes from stealing him off the Red Bull Young Driver program.
Yeah. I mean, that's the last thing Mercedes want is, or that Red Bull wants is for Mercedes to start stealing their drivers too.
Yeah, especially if he became world champion for Mercedes one day, they'd be well annoyed.
Yeah, pretty much. Time will tell how well Verstappen will do. But I mean, there's so much great talent coming through from Red Bull. There's
I really love that.
Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo, who's been absolutely storming last year. And then Daniel Kvyat, who has been promoted to Red Bull already.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Vettel was obviously the biggest one, being a 4-time champion. But the current Red Bull team weren't in F1 what? I mean, Ricciardo was in it for 2 years. So, no wait, was he in Toro Rosso for 2 years or 1 year, Ricciardo?
He was in HRT.
He was in HRT first.
Oh yeah,
2011.
yeah, I forgot about that. But anyway, still in a relatively short amount of time, they've brought 2 drivers from nowhere into the Red Bull F1 team, which is obviously a championship-winning team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty amazing. And then they've got one guy that everyone's really got a lot of hope for in Verstappen, and then obviously Carlos Sainz that well, we don't know anything about, but I'm sure that a lot of people do that actually know what they're talking about.
It's an interesting mix-up. I'm pretty interested in how that inter-team battle is going to work out at Toro Rosso. Probably more interested than just about any other team. Although, no, I'm pretty interested in the Vettel versus Raikkonen battle. I'm also pretty interested in seeing more Rosberg versus Hamilton. Button Alonso, I think that's not going to be quite as close as some people might think. But
more interesting, I would say. Not so close, but more interesting.
That's true.
It's always interesting to find out the relative pace of drivers, which you can only get when they join teams. If
Verstappen and Sainz are close enough in speed, though, we could see some pretty epic battles between them during the actual races. Because being at Toro Rosso, obviously they're not driving for a championship, so I doubt we're going to see very many team orders from the two of them. So if Sainz is fast enough, to bother Verstappen, or the other way around, if Sainz ends up being the faster of the two drivers. It could produce some really interesting on-track battles, but it's purely because they're really not going to be controlled like some of the higher-up team drivers would be.
Yeah, like I said, it'd be good because obviously they want to be top of that team so they can be next in line for Red Bull seat. But it's interesting though because Red Bull have only just filled both of their seats with pretty young drivers.
Pretty young guys, yeah, that's a great point.
Early to mid-20s, Ricciardo, something like that. Like he's pretty young.
I'll look it up while you talk.
He'll have something like another 10 years in the sport.
24 or 25.
Yeah, so he'll have about another 10 years in the sport. And obviously Kvyat is obviously also really, really young, early 20s definitely.
Yeah.
So I mean, where have they got to go? I mean, unless one of them doesn't perform, I think Ricciardo, because he seems to be such a star, he could leave like Vettel did, but that'll be a few years down the line. But then on the other hand, if the drivers do leave, that'll be probably because the Red Bull team isn't competitive. In which case, if you're in the Red Bull Young Driver program, you don't want to go to the Red Bull team because it's not competitive. So it's a really weird time to be in the Red Bull Young Driver program, isn't it? You basically got to hope that Kvyat isn't going to perform, haven't you? That's what you're hoping, which is a bit.
You're making it seem really dark for them. Like the
outlook
for the two of them is pretty bleak now.
It is. I mean, to be fair, I would give one of my testicle to be a Toro Rosso driver. So they've already had an amazing opportunity, even if they never get any higher than that.
Right.
Just strive. Be in a top team, be on TV, drive a Formula 1 car. That's an amazing thing. So
right.
It's it's not as good as perhaps I made it sound, but I can't see them getting to the Red Bull team unless something really weird happens. So,
we call that a dead end job here in the United States. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I mean it is like, as you said, it's like the best dead end job that you could ever have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I have to say, both Verstappen and Sainz Jr. they both have so much pressure just because they have such accomplished fathers. I mean, I don't know if you're too familiar with Carlos Sainz Sr.
No, I'm not really.
He's like super famous in the rally world. He's I don't know how many titles he's won, but he's back in the late 90s and early 90s. He was one of the best, and people are going to be expecting a lot from him as well.
He was the first driver not from Finland to win the 1000 Lakes Rally in Finland.
Well, that's pretty much.
I love that. Just in facts. But yeah, there's two sides to that story, because there's obviously that side where they've got immense pressure because of their fathers, but also they only got there because of their fathers. Let's not forget that. They got there because their fathers were successful, and obviously as a child they were into racing, they went to the tracks. Also their fathers got a bit of money because they were successful. So, you can't moan too much about that because that's why you're there. So there's two sides to that story, I think, really.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch. I think a lot of people are going to be intently watching Toro Rosso and the battle between those two guys. Not specifically because of like Toro Rosso, but because of just who they are and where they may or may not be going in the future and that sort of thing.
I think, and the Toro Rosso team. I mean, what they did last year was pretty amazing, really. I mean, they were pretty competitive. And that's impressive from such.
They always seem to be at that level, though. Like there's like certain tracks that suit them and certain tracks that don't. And sometimes they're really up there.
I think I said this in my blog, but they absolutely nail the level, don't they? Where they should be. Like they should be just on the cusp of Q3, which they almost always are. They should be, just about 5 points, which they almost always are. And you want when someone puts in an epic performance like Kvyat did a few times last year, you want them to get up to like P5 and be like right up there, and be like that's amazing. You don't want them to be in a Marussia level car where they outqualified a teammate by a second, that's amazing, but they're still 17th. Like that's a bit pointless. You want them when they do an epic quali, you want it to be P5. That's the exciting thing. So yeah, they've got probably the team structure and the balance of the budget absolutely perfect Toro Rosso for where they need them. So yes, it's really good.